tomorrow. Only the slightest of a chance of a brief shower, and I would say we're looking very, very minimal. Winds will be not super strong either, so should not have a major impact on the weather. It's going to be kind of warm in Kansas City tomorrow,
Yeah.
but other than that, there's
Uh,
no big difference.
and for our folks that pay attention to us, I just hit the recording on my Zoom. So now, and we're sharing. Dennis, you should be seeing my Vegas dApps, landscapes, things that we're going to be using this year. So can you see it? Yeah.
Yes, I got
Okay,
it,
good,
and it
good.
looks like we're talking mid game here, mid for points,
For
mid for spread.
the spread is right there on that edge, and it's nothing to move us into another category in my secret sauce. I'm going to keep the average sauce up there, and I'm going to keep the average sauce on the over and under. Watching the line, tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to change that much. I will say that I will post this hard copy with the this movie so y'all can see this, and I'll have the hard copy. And then for the weekend, I'll try to have this information. And so, Dennis, since this is the first here, let me just first time some people may have seen this. So I usually label the games 1 to 16 or whatever it is, the date, the time, the favorite, the predicted score based on my feeling in Vegas using their thing. I just need something to look at, right? So it's not like, oh, Dr. Bush is betting his mortgage on 26 points for Kansas City. Folks, if that's where you're looking, this is not, don't listen to us. I don't know who you listen to, but we do not risk large sums of money here. Okay. We prefer to lose our money at the racetrack on $10,000 maiden claimers in a bull ring track. So uh, make sure you bet the favorite early and often and bet your mortgage, and wheel the field. Obviously, joking there. So, no, you do not. This is not the first game out of the box. The casinos would love to get y'all going. We'll talk. I think Dennis has got a few prop things going for us today. But anyway, the score, the dog is Baltimore, the score. So they're thinking a spread 3 points or so over and under 46. So it's kind of an average situation as far as overview. Now, with the next block is the game, the number. That's don't worry about the number. The week, this season segment. So we're first game team Kansas City and Baltimore. The home is Kansas City and Baltimore's away. The opponents are tough. When you see red, that's tough. The overall defenses are tough. And again, this is based on last year. So, folks, I start about 3 weeks in. I'm going to modify. All I have is what happened last year. So my crystal ball is not very crystal right now. So please realize, and Dennis brought up something I'm wanting to talk a little bit about the Baltimore D, some of the personnel changes. But anyway, Kansas City against Baltimore figures to be tough again. Pacheco's going to have to earn his biscuits. It's tough. The quarterback, wide receivers are below average, so it's kind of okay, but a little tough. And Kelsey, so I can see where Kelsey and maybe Rashee Rice get an opportunity, and if Pacheco can keep the defense honest. So I'd if I was betting, 2, 3 touchdowns for Pacheco, this would not be the game I would be
No.
happy to bet. Even though I think there's some opportunity there, Dennis, because I'm going to bring that in. The kicker's tough. The defense, I really wouldn't play. Baltimore, KC's tough. KC lets the running backs have an ease at times. So there is a little bit of something there. The quarterback is below average. The wide receiver is very tough. Tight ends tough. So Mark Andrews and Kelsey, it wouldn't surprise me 1 TD each for both of those. And if the situations were, so if I was prop betting, I'd probably, and again, I'm conservative, so I probably wouldn't be taking that, but I could see in a parlay, you might want to flip that in. And the kickers, I'm not playing the kickers. I think Dennis is playing the kickers. Baltimore's D has done well, and Kansas City has turned over the ball last year above average. So there's a little bit there. Home and away splits. I talk about that. It's the H/A means home away. Rush attempts, anything above 1 is higher than, anything below 1 is lower. And using my box and whiskers information that I gather using that population distribution, I can tell you that Baltimore in away tends to run a little bit more, about 9% more, and they actually pass in a way about 4% more. KC loves to pass at home, Dennis, but they don't ignore the run either. So they're close to normal on run, but KC wants to pass. So their wanting to pass is sitting right in the landscape. And I show the passing yards, rushing, and reception based on looking at the Vegas information, the DAPS. It seems to imply it's going to be tough to earn passing and reception yards. So this is the confusing thing, Dennis, in some of the metrics, and we always have this, folks. Just Vegas is kind of telling us something. The DAPS are trying to tell us something else, but the landscape using the spread, the over under, some of that secret sauce implies that KC, the rushing yards are a little bit positive more than the DAPS. So the Vegas side is kind of telling us there may be some more rushing than we think, but the DAPS are saying no. So, and you're saying, well, what do you do when there's two directions? Well, the reason we have our testing and whatnot is we're gathering samples of only these landscapes and whatnot using the Vegas, and I only have from last year. So a lot of these situations, the actual times they occurred is not what I would like to bet the mortgage on, right? So we are in the middle and we're always beta testing. So just realize that. But this is what the landscape says. Baltimore, the rushing yards, which seems to be easy, the landscape says it's average. So it just looks like the rushing is a little bit more favored than I might have thought overall, but the passing seems down. So that is that piece of information, Dennis. And I do have my uncertainty metrics and my rankings of the players if we want to hit that. But I'm going to let you discuss because I hit a lot of ground there and maybe a little confusing. Folks, just play along with us. We're going to get better. In about week 4 or 5, we're going to be really rolling, and we're going to help you out a lot more later in this. And everybody can say that too. But right now, it's a little risky on some of this stuff.
It is very risky when you're early in the season. There's some good advantages to play. And then a lot of times it's just like at the horse race track. Sometimes you pick the winner. You're like, okay, I like this horse, but you were hoping to get him at 5-2 or 2-3-1 or,
Yep.
a little higher odds. All of a sudden it's 5 minutes to post, you're getting ready to make your bet, and that horse is 2-5 or 3-5. He looked like a great bet at 5-2 or 3-1 or even 4-1. You're jumping on him all day long. But all of a sudden he slides to 2-5.
No.
But you still pick him to be the winner. So sometimes at the horse race track, the best bet you can make is no bet at all.
Yeah.
You look for a better opportunity in the next race or 2 races later. The same thing when it comes to prop bets. So here's some interesting data that, again, using the professor's secret sauce and distilling it all down into the numbers, one peculiarity that we noticed is that the highest passing totals for a quarterback actually come when their running back has a tougher than normal matchup. When the running back, and this is all quarterbacks, not just Mahomes, so not just elite quarterbacks, this is all quarterbacks last year, Professor, when their running back faced a tough defense, 267 yards was the average passing. You know what the prop is on Mahomes this week?
No.
263.5.
Right there. Imagine,
right.
Damn it,
Right
or
there.
imagine Vegas has found what I found. Damn it.
So
Quit
far
doing that, Vegas.
So far,
Quit.
we think that
Quit.
Vegas might have
Quit
figured out the professor's secret sauce.
Quit
But
it.
you know what the best response to that is when it comes to Mahomes' bet this week?
I'm passing.
You pass on that bet. But
what's the Pacheco bet? Because I'm really intrigued
so
by the rushing yards.
Yeah, so Pacheco, of course, and here's where I think the Vegas props might vary based on, shall we say, the mental aspect of the game, because Pacheco looked great in the playoffs. The last time everybody saw Pacheco, he was in the playoffs and he was producing. That prop for him on rushing yards, 63.5 yards. That seems way too high to me, but one of the props I did play is part of my 3-legged parlay this week. Because Pacheco's not going to be able to run all day on this Baltimore defense unless the Baltimore defense got really much weaker, which is a possibility, folks. They lost some key players, including the most dynamic player on that defense last year was a guy by the name of Patrick Queen. He went elsewhere as a free agent. So they did not replace him with a similar player. There is no similar player in the NFL. The guy is a linebacker who can rush the quarterback. He can cover. He can hit. He's a hybrid. He's a different kind of player. He's a difference maker. He's one of the top 3 linebackers, I think, as far as all-around play in the NFL, and he's gone. So how will that weaken their defense? They also lost a defensive back. Will that hurt their pass coverage, guys? Logic says it probably will, but you don't know because we haven't seen the team in action yet. I'm very cautious week 1. But Pacheco did catch a lot of balls in the postseason last year. I know they added some AJP run at the end of training camp. That's the key. He doesn't know the whole offense yet, folks. Pacheco's over under for receptions, 2.5. I think he makes that. I think he gets 4 or 5 opportunities to catch the ball this week. So I like the over there. Wouldn't touch Mahomes on the passing yards either way. Kelsey, only 56.5 yards is his prop. That's a pretty good number.
I'm looking at my secret sauce a little bit. So if Kelsey gets, what did you say, 56?
56.5 is his prop.
So if the overall reception yards is around, say, 230, 240, who's going to cover that other 190? On average, that's kind of close to what the metrics might tell us about this situation.
So
You
they've
see what
got,
I'm saying?
yeah, they've got Worthy at 47.5. They got Rice at 63.5. I like that Rice play, by the way. I think if,
So that's about 160. That,
yep, 160 between those three.
and then
They've
80
got
more somewhere.
another 17.5 for Pacheco. So yeah, and then they throw a little bit of everything at
It
everybody
seems like
else.
there's a little loosey goosey there a little bit. I don't know if I don't like that Kelsey a little bit.
I do like the Kelsey yardage because here's the thing. If Kansas City, if Vegas is right and Kansas City scores 26 points,
Yeah,
they score in the 20s, mid 20s or
yeah,
higher,
right.
they're going to have to gain yards to do that. We've seen that when the rushing defense is tough, that's where we have our maximum yards for passing, and that makes sense to me. So if Mahomes is around 250, asking Kelsey to get 56.5 and asking Rashee Rice to get 63.5, that seems to be reasonable bets to me. I did take Rashee Rice and I took the Pacheco bet in my props this week. And
That's nice.
the great thing on these props, at every site that you play, whether it's Underdog, whether it's on Sleeper, if you're a fantasy football player on Sleeper, they have availability to do these prop bets as well. Draft, which is our big buddy Disco, the big guy we met at the expo. Uh, cool guy, by the way. 6'9", 350 pounds of romping, stomping fantasy football dynamite, folks. He clued us in that there's some prop bets over at Drafters. So there's a lot of sites that offer them. I like the ones that give you a freebie. So in one of my bets this week, I got Burr over half a yard free play, and I got Pacheco over 2.5, and I got Butker hitting 2 field goals or more, because my gut says Baltimore gets awfully tough in that red zone. And if the Chiefs are going to score 26 points, Butker's probably going to have 3 field goals. You're talking 3 field goals, a couple of touchdowns to get into the 20s. And that's kind of how I think it's going to play out. Maybe he has 4 field goals and there's 2 touchdowns. That's 26 points right there. So maybe that's how
Sounds
this
like you're
whole
not
thing comes together.
betting the touchdown props if you're envisioning multiple field goals.
Yeah, I think there will be multiple field goals. So I am a little hesitant to play the touchdown props. I don't like playing touchdown props as a general rule anyway,
Okay.
because it's less than a touchdown a game for most of these players. And against a tough defense, I do not like to play touchdown props. I'll play some yardage props because teams aren't going to move the ball, but a stingy defense gets really stingy in their red zone. They'll give up a lot of yards, maybe. They'll give up some yards, but they won't give up those last 20 yards. So that's where I think the field goals come into play, and Butker can hit from long distance. So that's why I liked that prop bet. But be very cautious week 1, folks. Do not make big bets.
So let me just, for the recording here is the team, the position, the player, something called high, low, average, and low. That's my uncertainty metrics that I don't, Dennis, we probably hadn't talked a lot about that. And that's fine because I haven't even tested it, so I don't know. I like to have something to shoot at, folks. It's reference class forecasting. You got to have something to start your thinking. And that's how I use what you see here. Uh, so I've got Butker at one of the highest in the week, actually. So maybe when I did my rankings, I guess I'm happy with Butker there. Mahomes at 90, that may be a little aggressive given the defense, but I did like him. Pacheco, I thought he had. Now, notice I think Butker and Mahomes I had higher uncertainty. That means I think the floor ceiling it could be worse than we think or better than we think. The safest for me is Rice, ranked anything above 50 is 50 to about 70 is probably a WR2 type. So I think Rashee Rice at his floor is a 2 for the week against everybody. He's in the top 24. At least that's my, and I think I think he could get some nice yardage there. And Pacheco is in the 80s, so he could be in the top 12 this week, even against a tough situation. That's how I see that. And we hadn't really talked about, because Dennis loves the the Chiefs, Baltimore. The defense, it's not high. I think I didn't rank them high because KC can burn them. So
Yep.
I would be playing either defense this week. Justin Tucker, love him. I love him. Even though I got him ranked less than Butker, he's just OG. He really is.
Automatic.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so Lamar is close to that 1-2 QB for the ranking for the week, kind of at 80. Not a Mahomes 100, but I think he's a little safer than Mahomes for this game. Because his rushing and everything, he'll get you what he usually gets you. I don't see a lot of high and low for him. I don't even know what his prop is, Dennis. Is it
So
near
his
230,
his yeah,
240?
his prop on passing yards is 219 and a half. His
You
rushing
know
yard,
that 219, that there
that's
might be a
doable.
little that I don't know. I'm not I don't I'm since folks I'm just learning this prop. Dennis did some last year. I've never placed a prop bet. Right now, I'm greedy. I would like to have a prop near 200, but that's probably too much. So I guess 219, that feels like that's interests me. I'd have to look at everything for the week, and that's why I probably wouldn't do. I don't like Thursday, but that's interesting.
So
Henry, okay, go.
looking at all the secret sauce,
Yeah,
it it adds up to, like, if you were to just kind of take a median
yeah.
of
I
all
think
the
it's
different
around
categories,
240,
it'd be about 240,
235.
245. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
my sauce says 236, 238. I'm looking at my,
yep.
so that 219, it catches my interest.
Yeah, the 50.5 yards rushing does not, though. Over 50 yards for
No.
a quarterback is a lot of yards. I know
Uh,
Lamar's great, but
well, yeah, no, but I like Henry. I really like. I think he's got a shot at being in, a nice rank for the week. But notice I've got him high uncertainty. I think I drafted a lot of Henry.
in
Okay,
tr- in in
I need a good, but I'm just concerned that KC can really rough them up, and I don't know how that's going to a new team. I don't know how it's going to go. Justice Hill, I think it's an intriguing uh, you know, play as well. I know there's, other people. What Mitchell's on pup, as you said, but for this game, I don't know. I wouldn't play Justice Hill. Andrews, I love. I really think 96. That's why I think him and Kelsey. I think they got a good shot at a touchdown apiece, and I would definitely. You got to play both those guys. Uh, is Zay Flowers playing? Is he suspended?
Yes. No.
Oh,
Zay Flowers is
okay.
he'll be in
I
there.
got him at a 67. So the WR2. So he would be my a flex average uncertainty. Nobody else catches my attention there. So I don't know if you want to comment on any of these numbers or any of these.
Yeah, I'll throw a little more math at you here because the prop bets for all of the Ravens receivers are very interesting. And same with Derrick Henry. So, that 219.5 for Lamar Jackson is tempting. How about Zay Flowers at 53.5? How about Mark Andrews at 48.5?
That intrigues
And
me.
that intrigues me. And how about Derrick Henry? He's at 53.5.
Ooh,
This is a
that's
guy that averaged over 75 a game last year. How about this for Justice Hill? Because we know he's going to get some usage, especially on a warm day. They're not going to run Derrick Henry 35 times. Justice Hill, only 15.5 yards
that
as his
almost
prop.
sounds like two plays and you could collect there. That seemed very intriguing.
1/3 and long draw play against the Chiefs defense. He could pretty much get that. It's very intriguing. The
Sounds
numbers.
like I'm hearing some more numbers with the Baltimore than I did with the Chiefs as a group.
Yes, and that makes perfect sense because as Chief fans have a tendency to bet a lot on our guys. So I think that raises their prop numbers
And remember,
because
they have an easy
rushing.
landscape.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the rushing.
on the rushing.
So yeah, and I believe looking at the Chiefs defense, it is a very aggressive pass defense. You do not
Yes.
want to get into 3rd and long with the Chiefs, as we saw
Yeah.
in the playoffs last year. And I think, except for Snead, everybody else is back. Snead and Bolton are the only two, but they brought back, I'm sorry, Snead and Gay are the only two. But Snead's the only defensive back that didn't come back this year. Everybody else is back and they added. So I think the Chiefs' pass defense is going to be stout again. Their rushing defense, they tend to give up some yards on the ground. So I think both of those are intriguing numbers for
Nice.
for the Ravens this year. Or this week. I like them. I'm not so sure I'm going to fire them up because it's week 1 and I'm a little uncertain as to where things are going. But the Chiefs defense, it's going to be really good. And it, they're missing a couple of pieces right now. Charles Omenihu will not be in there for the first 4 games. He was a big part of their team last year. But Noddy's there, Jones is there, Tranquil, Leo Chanel will be in there on running plays. Nick Bolton is back. They've got a lot of good players that are going to give the Ravens fits this week, but I think they're going to give up some rushing yards. It would be my guess, not to Lamar Jackson. I think they like to put a spy on a rushing quarterback, and they shut Lamar down in the second half last year in the playoffs. So I don't like that prop on Lamar on the rushing yards. I do like Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. I think they probably will both be over their number, and I do like that Andrews receiving yardage. That's a
That's nice.
intriguing play.
Yeah, it is. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's take a look. And by the
This,
way, I'm taking the Chiefs
yeah,
-3, and I think it's actually going to be under that 46. It's going to be slightly under. I would not make that bet.
the daps seem to be tough. I'll say that. That was my feeling when I looked at this game.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at 42 to 44 on the over under. That's not low enough versus the over under to get me to bet it. But I'll take Kansas City, and I'll give the 3. All right, on to Friday night, a game of uncertainty. Philadelphia, Green
Boy,
Bay facing
I,
off, and boy, so many changes to
yeah.
Philadelphia too on both sides of the ball.
Uh, so the spread is 2, and that puts it into a really interesting category. That's in a interesting pot that I put into a different area to look at with my data here. Philadelphia favorite, Green Bay dog, 2 points, 26-22, over under 48.5, Dennis.
Oof.
They Vegas says this is a shootout in Brazil. I don't know. Why don't you pontificate about that before we go into the dapps?
Yeah, too much uncertainty for me when I look at these two teams this year. Green Bay, I think, is going to be closer defensively to what we saw Green Bay last year than Philadelphia will be. Philadelphia, especially the last 6 games or so of the season, Philadelphia couldn't score a lot of points, and Philadelphia gave up a lot of points. So that defense for Philadelphia, a lot of changes this year. And one would think that they made changes for the better, but we don't know yet. What we do know is they've got a tough defensive line. Green Bay will probably have a tough time running against them. Jordan Love's going to score where they need to score. Both teams are going to be having to throw the ball and have success through the air. That's the only way you're going to get to 48.5 for the over under in this game, in my opinion. And the props are pretty much saying that too. They've got 243.5 for Hurts, and they got 258.5 for Jordan Love. Those are pretty stout numbers to hit, especially first game of the season. You're going to be, I don't think first game of the season that the offenses have the advantage.
I just worry about just the whole Brazil thing. 48. It's if this was in America at one of these stadiums, I'd like it. I don't like it here. I just don't know what's going to happen. And all the metrics, everything I have, do not include a foreign Brazilian game. So this is I have an end of 1 here after this game. The DAPS say that Philly has a little bit of harder time against the running back, but everything with the quarterback and the wide receivers and the tight end has an easy situation. Kicker's good. I wouldn't play either defense. Green Bay has a tough rushing, but an easy passing. Easy. I mean, I see that Vegas looks at these metrics. Then this 48 is because of the high flying QBs and the wide receivers and the tight ends for both. It looks like it's passing all day long, and rushing is tougher, and that just keeps the other defense honest. I mean, if that's how I had to see this, Philadelphia, home, but away they like to pass 7% more. They don't like to rush. So believe it or not, the Brazilian game plays into their what they like to do. They like to pass more away. Green Bay loves to rush in away games and doesn't like to pass. So, again, I don't know how this fits into Brazil. Green Bay loves to pass at home. They do not love to pass away. So like 1.18, Dennis, that's one of the outliers in the whiskers, even
Wow.
1.14. Yeah. So Green Bay's tendency doesn't play with what the defense is giving them here. it's like, hey, please pass on us. And their away metric says we don't want to pass away. We want to rush by 16% more. So, but Green Bay says, no, we're tough on the. So Philly gets an average kind of landscape. Green Bay, see, this is where this DAPS versus using the Vegas and stirring it in, I get a completely different answer. I get a green passing and reception and kind of a little bit of tough rush. So maybe it's not too bad. The DAPs say tough. The landscape says a little bit tough. But look at the passing yards. It's all green. So it looks like Green Bay has a much better opportunity in the passing game as the dog versus Philly, which is still easy anyway. So I don't know if the landscape is telling me. I just know that the tendency that Green Bay has done in the past is not working with, this Brazilian game. I'm not sure how to play this. I don't know with the props or what any kind of props that got your attention, Dennis, on this stuff?
Yes, the receiving yards for Jaden Reed and
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Smith. Um, First of all, I don't like the AJ Brown one, but it shows why he has to be in your lineup for fantasy football. Vegas is setting the prop for him at 72.5, and they're, that's on 5.5 receptions. So I mean, we're talking 12 points minimum if he
Yeah,
gets in the end
that's the
zone.
median for a wide receiver.
But they're giving him a half a chance to score a touchdown too. So add those three. We're talking 15-point game if he just reaches the prop. So it's going to be interesting there. But 72.5 is a pretty good yardage amount for a wide receiver. I wouldn't play to the high side of that, but I don't trust AJ Brown, so I wouldn't bet the under either. But Devonta Smith is only 59.5 for his
That
receiving
seems a
yard.
little bit doable.
I think that's
Given
doable. And
given this, yeah, given this scenario, yeah.
Jaden Reed only 43.5. So
Ooh,
just like fantasy football folks who are not believers in Jaden Reed yet, unlike me, our metrics love the guy.
yeah, we did.
And in my MVP says he's an 80 point MVP guy. That's
That's
top
nice.
20. That's a top 20 wide receiver each and every year over the last 6 years. So that suggests to me that that's more of a 55 to 60 yard guy. So I will probably play that prop. The only thing that would keep me from playing that prop would be the fact that it's not here in the United States. I
Yeah.
do. It just seemed to me last year, Professor, that these outlier games, these most of the European games tended to be low scoring affairs.
Yes.
And
Thursdays are tough too.
Thursdays are also low scoring events. And this is actually like a Thursday night game. It's different for these players. So I believe the under on this is something I would play. I think this
You
score is
think they're going to struggle to hit 48?
more likely to be 40-42. And that's a big enough gap that I would play that. And I actually like Green Bay to pull off the upset here. So I would take Green Bay and the points, and I'd probably play the Jaden Reed and the Devontae Smith overs.
You should get a two-leg parlay on that then.
I'll probably add that together with one of those gimme props and and cash in over there because Sleeper likes to do a lot of these, little here we'll hand you one. So it's only a two-legged parlay for 3-1 odds or greater. I'll take that every week and help it build my bankroll. Again, not betting a big big play on this. This will be a $5 bet, which is 5% of my of my bank rollover there. So not a big bet, but bets that I think we can play a couple of parlays here comfortably, working around that Jaden Reed and Devontae Smith
What about
props.
Barkley? Here's my rankings. I really like Barkley this week, but I give him high uncertainty, so that worries me. I'd have to have a nice prop to consider him. What
They got him right at 69.5, which
that
is a
seems a little aggressive.
that's aggressive. And his total yards,
Yeah.
because they do that too. So his rushing and receiving yard prop is 88.5. That's very aggressive, but it shows why he's got to be in your starting lineup
Oh
this
yeah.
week, because he's got to be in your starting lineup each and every week. If you drafted Barkley, he is your RB1
What about?
all season long.
Oh yeah, and so I got him at 100. Goddard is at 65. He's a good tight end 2 type this week. He could flex in if you've got some type of, like, if you drafted, I did draft Hawkinson and like Goddard, and I may be playing Goddard because I'm waiting for Hawkinson. Please come back. Please come back. My ownership is very high on Hawkinson for a lot of my teams there. I'm really, I was able to get him with some of these other ones here. 65. AJ Brown, 98 average uncertainty, and Devonta Smith, 69. I like those guys, 1, 2. Uh, you know, it's just that, I mean, betting, I'm not betting probably. I did like the Devonta Smith prop, but as far as lineup, I'm playing Goddard, Brown, Smith, Hurts, Barkley. I'm even Jake Elliott if you got it. Not playing the D for Philadelphia, Dennis. And for Green Bay, I'm not playing Green Bay defense. I don't know about their kicker. I've never even heard of this guy. Jordan Love, I'm really worried. I think he's safe, but he's a 55. I don't know what we're going to get out of him. I mean, I've drafted him a lot, and I hope that he does better, but I got him, maybe a QB 2-ish type this week. I don't know, Dennis. I mean, I'm going to be playing him, but not happy. Jacobs, I really like. 85 is nice, but I think there's high uncertainty given the landscape is kind of tough for Jacobs there. And I don't know, what's the prop on Jacobs?
So the prop on Jacobs is 66.5 rushing
That
yards,
seems pretty aggressive given
80,
Brazil.
80,
Yeah.
89.5 total yards. So they've got him a yard higher than Barkley.
I thought if I'm betting those head to head, I don't know who I'd bet. I'd have to Dutch those guys or something. I don't like the tight ends much. I mean, I understand if you got to play them, but in best ball is where I drafted Luke. Christian Watson, Dennis, I've got Reed over Watson. You and I just had that discussion. I got him at 61. He's, I think you said top 20. I'd buy that all day long. I'm playing him. I'm playing probably both in flex. I would like to play both of those guys in flex. I think Dobbs could be interesting as well in there if Love can get the passing going in Brazil. What's his prop, Dobbs?
Dobbs's prop is actually fairly low. It's 38.5 yards.
See, that's what I figured.
And he's a big play guy. So
yeah,
that's
you could
2 catches.
Yeah, you could almost that is the most intriguing thing I've heard right there. That guy.
I wouldn't mind going for the Reed and the Dobbs numbers, because 43.5, 38.5. If
That's
Love is
interesting.
successful, and they're putting Love's, passing yards. They got him at 258.5.
That's pretty aggressive, though.
If he hits 250,
wow.
you got to think both Dobbs and Reed are going to be over 50 yards each.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
like that. That's very intriguing.
Going back briefly, I didn't mention this before. Goddard has got a weird prop. They're expecting him to catch 4.5 balls, but only for 39.5 yards. So that shows that.
Know about that.
No, I wouldn't touch either one of those bets
Yeah,
because
I don't know what that means. That's weird. I'm playing him if I got him because I probably got him because I drafted Hockenson.
Yeah, but that again is another guy who's an 8-point game for you according to the props, and I'll take 8 points from my tight end.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially like I said, if I in best ball, I know I did the Goddard Hockenson turnaround.
Yep.
I know I did that in a lot of leagues. So anyway, Dennis, those are my overall. I'm liking the props talk this year. This is the first year we've tried to use some of Dennis's and our research as applied to Vegas. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but I think we've had some interesting things that we're on the record for here. Anyway, that's my view of things. A lot more uncertainty with the Friday game than I would love the DAPS for the Friday game with the Chiefs and ball. I wish that's the game I wish we had. And if that was the case, we'd have 50 or more. I mean, it'd be the shootout that we want. I want the shootout. I love what we call the Husky games. I love that. I just wish that Baltimore wasn't so tough. I would love to see your Kansas City Chiefs really rack up some points there.
Yeah, and that's the tough part to this is you just, first of all, it's the first week of the year. You don't know where the teams are going to be, but to put it in perspective, the over-under for the Chiefs is in the 40s, right? The Chiefs Ravens game is in the
46.
They just came off of a championship where it was 17-10.
Yep.
So I just, to me, I understand playoffs are different than the regular season, but Thursday night and playoffs sometimes work out to be both low scoring events compared to the rest of the year. So
would you do the parlay under?
I might play an under parlay on this week. If they'll let me do a 2-legged parlay under, if I got to add a third, I'll probably take the Chiefs and give the 3. But yeah, that's an intriguing way to play that because I think both games will be lower scoring. And the more I look at it, the more I'm convinced that the Chiefs Ravens will be lower than that over under as well. I gotta believe that both of these games we're gonna see the teams not quite playing their best football offensively yet. They don't play a lot in preseason now. They don't get a lot of snaps. It takes a while to really get the timing down. And I think there's, you got good enough defenses in that game, and then you got the chaos of Brazil on the other side. So I would like the unders on both of these games this week.
Nice, Dennis. Well, Dennis, you like kind of how this flow went for folks? I don't know. Folks, feel free to reach out through Twitter. Dennis is very active. I stay quiet. I let Dennis stir up the folks out there. He likes to do that, and he's not the only one. With the experts out there, he will mix it up with any of them. So, but if you like this, my thinking in the research is that Vegas has something to tell us as fantasy players. I really believe that, and I didn't really pay attention early in my fantasy, and now that I'm into the a year into the metrics, Dennis. I'm feeling like I need that, especially flex and tiebreakers. I'm going to be looking at these metrics, the Vegas stuff, to help me break some ties this year.
Yeah, and I think that is a great way to use these metrics, even if you don't play them, even if you're not gambling against the props. It pays to pay attention to those props, because I got news for you folks. Those, have you ever seen a sports book shrink in
Nope,
size?
not in Vegas.
They know what they're doing, folks. So that is reason to pay attention. So you can follow me at DMike Media on Twitter. You could follow the professor at prof_fantasy1, and you'll catch up with all that the professor has to offer. And of course, head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. The professor has lots of lessons plans. He has lots of information, including, can't wait as we get into the season and we get all of the efficiency metrics.
Everything going. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Some of my favorite stuff. And of course, head on back here this weekend on Saturday for another edition
Saturday morning. Yep.
Saturday morning. So another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Get to work, folks.
I really like the way that data breaks down.
You think it?
Yes, I think it works great.
I think we're going to get better at it as the season goes on with lots of different things.
Yeah, I do think so too. I think it's a case that and it's also I really think it pays to sell the uncertainty right now.
And by the way, folks, I'm still for our brave listeners to actually watch the video. Dennis, I'm recording our after the show comments. Dennis and I don't say you suck and walk out the door. We're scheming and plotting lots of good data and secret stuff that you don't get to hear about. But I said, why not keep the recording? Maybe give them an opportunity to sit through our 40 or 50, I don't know, hour. I don't know. Dennis and I can talk about this all day long. We love this stuff. So thanks for watching the videos. I'll have the hard copies up, but that was our show. And I think we did good with the Vegas. But, we're so embedded. I spent a month and a half in March and end of April and I've been kind of coming back with doing all the drafts and we got so much data, we just got to carve it down. And frankly, we're learning, folks. So just like I said, this is not the time to bet the mortgage, but I think we're going to get better, Dennis. I really do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of patterns in the data, and me and patterns.
Great pattern guy.
That's what meteorology is all about, folks. It's really, it is pattern recognition more than anything else.
You like after the show recording?
I do like that. And Professor, we have an important thing that we need to take care of right now, because we are on the clock.
Are we on the clock?
We are on the clock, round 19 for Fish 1.
Well,
we have 6 minutes to go before we're off the clock.
Well, let's
and we do have Dalvin Cook. We have Dalvin Cook loaded at the top of the queue.
I don't know why we wouldn't.
I think it's worth the gamble. I think he's worth the gamble, and then we can come back in round 20 with a tight end. Yeah.
So, folks, you're actually seeing us. We're finishing a best ball Superflex tournament play here. This is round 19, pick 5. We're thinking we think we needed a running back, right? Because if you look, we got Henry Pacheco. Don't you love this? Boy, do we need Thursday and Friday to jump up for. We like Swift, Singletary, Tracy. I love back in Singletary up, and then Steele.
Yeah.
back in Pacheco. We really are covered. We got Higgins and Allen, but I'm hoping Allen shows everybody wrong this year. Love
And we got the
Hopkins,
yep, we got the back class. We got Romeo Dobbs, who
and I
we
like
just
Lockett.
talked about,
He's going to give us and Cooks. You know,
and
I
Tyler
took
Boyd.
Cooks everywhere with the CD Lamb was just
We're this
yeah.
this game we're going to be
Look at
watching
Kelsey,
closely because
Jiggy.
we got Lamar Jackson at quarterback on this team as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh, do we?
yeah,
Yeah.
so we got
Lamar,
Lamar
Goff,
Goff and
and
Watson.
Watson for our best ball. That's nice. So
Now
I'm thinking Cook to gamble, Dennis.
I think so. And here's the reason, folks, is in tournament play,
Yeah.
it's really good to have some of these under-owned players like Boyd who
But
could go
it's the
off for a big
19th
week.
pick. Yeah,
And it's the
Boyd.
19th pick. And here, Dalvin Cook, there's no competition to take off. If Dalvin Cook's got anything left in the tank at all, he should be able to beat out what remains on that roster. So yeah, I like that. I like his chances a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, so you got a sense of, and Dennis and I, we kind of already discussed that before. So anyway, anything else we want to? But the Vegas stuff, I think it's kind of like making bread, Dennis. It's going to rise up. Okay. And I
Yeah.
think you and I have to learn how to learn this stuff. And
And
imagine next year when I have 2 years of the database. And so next March and April, I'm going to hit it hard too and see what we can see.
so there's this week, there's 32 teams, and there's about five, well, about, yeah, five, six players each, let's say six players on each team that there are props bets for. So that's 196 data points
Goodness.
that we will learn from in week one.
Yep. I like
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And the key to betting these props, folks, is to be selective.
Yeah, I
It's
think so.
most of the sites will give you a freebie. Like I got on one of my
What was it? He
parlays,
had to
I've got
fall forward
I got
for a yard or something.
Kelsey a half a yard
Oh
receiving.
my goodness.
So if Kelsey gets shut out, I believe that would be the first
Crazy.
time in his career that he got shut out. But if he gets shut out, that's the only way that one loses. And I'm using the safer plan, so we will get paid off with one of our three missing. Like we'll have one bad leg of the parlay and we will still collect something.
Good.
So we are sacrificing some of our top end profit. We are dropping from 4.5 to 1 to 3 to 1 on that parlay, but it becomes a 2-leg parlay for 3 to 1. I'll take that any damn day if I can find two legs that I like. And like I said, I think Butker's going to have a big kicking day, and he's pretty accurate. I think he's going to get chances at field goals. So I like his chances
And
of
since
plugging.
people are listening, some of the metrics I thought was some interesting game for the weekend, Dennis. If you look at some of just the passing yards, I don't think I really hit. I think Minnesota and the Giants, very intriguing. The spread's low, very interesting. And Cleveland and Dallas, the spread is low and the yardage are really very different. Uh, in the metrics there. Those are the two, and also Cleveland, Dallas, and 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 Houston and Indianapolis. So those are some games that and I don't know if we'll cover those, but just since you're listening, Dennis, those are some that I think you definitely want to look at the props because there's a disparity. The metrics are claiming the passing yards are really wide between, on average, the floor in this is big in the Houston versus Indianapolis. and the Minnesota, the Giants, and Cleveland and Dallas. They got Dallas really down. That was a very I'm curious to see how that's really going to play, but they got the Cleveland D giving Dak all he wants. So I don't know how that plays with the props and everything. Anyway, that's kind of a weekend preview, folks. So if you've got any of those games and some of your flexes, just be cautious. There's some extreme. The data says there's extreme things could happen in as far as the passing, and of course that means receptions would be tricked as well. So I did want to give that a shout out too.
Yeah, and
Yes, sir.
I will be charting and analyzing the props for every game
I
this
like
year.
that. Well,
So
it's good.
along the way, we'll know what is going on, and we will probably spot some patterns in the data
I hope
that
so.
that might give us some clues as to what Vegas is thinking,
Yeah.
which will help us predict the next year. But the reason that I started looking at these props is because I did see this as a tiebreaker for my fantasy football lineups. And then when the professor's research this spring showed up to a 29% advantage under certain circumstances, that got me really intrigued. I love finding advantages because that's where you make money in sports betting. And the crazy thing is, Professor, I took that $10 free that Sleeper gave me and ran it up to 110 last year, with little knowledge. So now we've got more knowledge. This is like adding the buyer's figures,
Yeah. Can you
from
imagine before
racing to
everybody had
this.
those?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
So
was
this
great.
is this is going to give us some advantage, but we've already spotted in our very first game that we analyzed, we spotted Vegas picking up on that tough running back leads to more passing yards. It makes perfect sense that that would be something that happened, but but that's regardless of how good the pass defense is. That's the crazy thing about
Yeah, I'm still
some of
not
these
wrapping my
stats.
head around some of this stuff here, Dennis. It's going to be really interesting having 2 years of data, and of course, 3 years even better. But uh, I'm looking forward to that. So,
But
Dennis, I'm
what
gonna
it
stop her recording.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Anyway,
but
hope
what
you
it
like the
yeah,
show after the show here, Dennis.
the after show, an
Yeah.
exclusive here on the science of
Yeah, and so
fantasyfootball.com.
this is the video, and you can listen to the full podcast and see the stuff. So anyway, we'll end it here, and we'll maybe if we have time on Wednesdays, we can do more of that. I don't know. I just felt inspired. I guess the first week I'm getting too inspired here, Dennis. Too
Oh,
inspired.
there's no such thing as too inspired. It's week one. I'm excited. Hey, I almost started singing Cool in the Gang on the show
Oh, I
today,
like
so
that celebration. Okay,
that
let
is
me
a good
stop
thing.
recording. Woo woo.